Rev up your engines! Well, after 23 years, finally something went wrong with my wife's Lexus. Happens to a lot of cars. You start hearing a creaking, sometimes a little clunking type noise when you're cornering hard, or when you're pulling into a driveway or a big parking garage. Now, lots of things can do it. So today I'm going to show you how you can find out what it is, how to check it, and how to fix it. Good jack. Roll it under the car. Now, this Lexus is very easy to jack up because you can see there's a bump in the front part of the frame. You put the jack under there and you jack the whole front end up. First you put the emergency brake on, nice and strong, so it doesn't roll anywhere. Then you jack it up in the air so the wheels are firmly off the ground, maybe about that high or so. The noise is coming from the right, so we're going to check the right side, and we'll put a jack stand under here. Now the first thing you want to check is to see if you got a bad tie rod or ball joint. If the tie rods are bad, it'll go clunka clunka. It does nothing when you turn it here at 3 and 6 o'clock. The tie rod is one that will go clunka clunka, so that's okay. Now the ball joints, you do 12 o'clock and 6. If that clunks, the ball joints are bad. Well, it's neither of those because it doesn't have any play. So the next thing to do is to remove the wheel. Got a locker on here, so make sure that's on nice and tight. Find a socket that fits over it. We'll take that one off first. Off it goes. We'll put this to the side so we don't lose it. Then we take the regular ones off, which is a different size socket. Then we'll move the wheel out of the way. Now the first thing we're going to look at, we'll get this dust cover out of the way. This is the strut, and even though this car's 23 years old, these are original struts. But you can see, if you look, they are not leaking. It's amazing. The rubber that holds the spring in place is a little bit cracked and stuff. That could be making a noise, and I'm not going to replace all that crap for that, so I'm going to lubricate this later. But in the meantime, we're going to check everything else. Now sometimes these stabilizer links go bad. There's your stabilizer bar, right? And these links hold it to the strut. Now, these are in pretty good shape. They're not pulling. If they went clunka clunka when you pulled on them, they weren't, but that's okay too. And everything else, the CV boot's fine. Yeah, this car's old as can be, 23 years old, so we'll check the brake lines. The end's rubber and it's not cracked or anything or leaking. That's still in good shape. They made these things really well in Japan. There's no arguing that. We'll check the ball joint. The rubber's still good, it's not cracked or anything. About these Lexuses is this. The ball joint is a replaceable part. It on-bolts from your lower control arm here, so you can just take the 3 bolts off and replace the ball joint, not have to buy the whole thing. It's a pretty good design. I gotta say, it's held up quite well. Now I do have to say, someone's been driving close over speed bumps or something. I'm not gonna mention anybody, but it is my wife's car. Here's something you need to know. Back in the day, when I was a young mechanic, when you got your oil changed at a garage, we would grease all the grease fittings. And there were many grease fittings. Some cars would have 18 different grease fittings. You'd grease them, grease would go in so they wouldn't creak and make noise. But everything, the control arm, top of the strut, there's no grease fittings on them. And especially these bushings here on the lower control arm, they get old, they get a little worn. You can see it's a little bit cracky. It doesn't have any play or anything, but they actually need to be taken care of every once in a while. Now, I can't grease them because they're not any grease fittings. You can't pour grease on them. So here's a trick I've been doing for years. It's AT205 Reseal. And you might say, what is it, just stop leaks? Well, the way it works is it rejuvenates rubber products. So let's say you had an engine rear main seal leak. The rear main seal of an engine is a rubber seal. Shaft spins in it. The seal can get worn. This can rejuvenate it so they don't leak. And that's the clue, rejuvenation of rubber. All these bushings are made out of rubber. Now, it may seem kind of crazy, but I just poured in a professional sprayer. It even says professional sprayer. I got it from my daughter-in-law. Now, as I pour it in, you'll see it looks like water, but it isn't. It is a polymer that is really good at rejuvenating rubber products. So we'll pour the whole bottle in it goes. Now this stuff isn't cheap, but it works. Spray on all the rubber bushing. It's best to really soak them and then let them sit overnight so it soaks in and it starts rejuvenating the rubber and makes the noise go away many times. You don't dilute it, even though it looks like water, like I say it isn't. You want to spray all the rubber bushings. There. There's some more. There's one up here. You want to spray under the strut. There's bushes inside there. You even want to spray the top of the strut, because there's a lot of rubber everywhere. Even though this side isn't making a noise yet, I'm spraying it too. It's not hard to see the other end of the control arm, okay? It's back in that little hole there. So we want to spray that too. So some people spray WD-40, spray silicone, and they can get rid of the noise for a while, but when it rains, it washes off. This AT205 reseal, it soaks into the rubber and it rejuvenates it. And if you want the truth of the matter, this thing was squeaking the same way 4 years ago. So I'm doing it again 4 years later. I should probably do it once a year, but hey, I'm lazy, right? Plus, we only drive this car half the year when we're in Tennessee. We don't take it to Rhode Island, so it doesn't get that many miles put on it. But this is the absolute best thing. It rejuvenates rubber. I've seen guys put it on their golf clubs, all kinds of things. It really works great. Now we're going to put the tire back on, and we're going to do the other side too. Might as well do both of them. I'm not going to use the impact wrench to put it back together, and I'll explain why. This is a very good impact wrench, the CSCRI 21 volts. Right? I've been using them for years. But taking things off doesn't matter. You're just taking it off. When you put it on, you don't want to over torque it. So first, you put it on by hand. You line it up and tighten them by hand. You just want to get them snug till you really can't turn them anymore. Unless you're Superman. I'm not Superman, so I'm not going to get them tightened up by bare hands. But you want to do it. They're all snug. That's snug. Those are snug. Now these other ones will go on real easy. And the last one is the puzzle lock. Now we get the puzzle lock on. Now we check out the jack stand. We don't want to crush things. Then we get a torque wrench to do the final job. In this case, it's about 78 foot-pounds. First we do all of them. And this one too. We're just getting it snug to make sure it's snug, all right? They're all snug now. Now, we pull on this until it clicks. You heard it click? Okay, it's 78 foot-pounds. Then we go across to the one that's across from it. Well, we got to swatch it again because they're different sizes. Get the other one out. And you do a cross tightening. This one till it clicks. It clicked. Then this one. It clicked. Then this one. It clicked. And then this one. And now it's just right. And why are we doing this? Because if it's too loose, they can fall off. But if it's too tight, you can warp the rotors. You can cause wheel bearing problems. You want to get them on just right. If you see some mechanic with an air impact putting it back on, he's going to destroy things. You got to use a torque wrench. You can get decent ones for 80, 90 bucks. Or places like AutoZone will even rent them to you. I don't know if I'd want one of their rentals. It probably isn't calibrated right. I get mine calibrated, so I know they work correctly. And if you're not sure about your car, just look it up on the internet. Say, what's the torque setting for my lug nuts on this car? And it'll tell you how many foot-pounds it is. All right, let's be boring and jack it up and do the other side. And we'll get the jack stand, stick that under here. And as long as we're here, we might as well do the whole show. Now the tie rod's fine, no play. Ball joint's fine. Take the tire off. The puzzle lock takes a different socket. Those are often the hardest ones to get off. And we'll check everything again. You can see the rubber here. Cracking too, we're gonna spray that. But, is there any pull here? No. Here, no. Giant bolt that holds the sway bar out. That has no play. And again, this is getting a little old on the control arm. And then back in here too, so we're gonna spray those. Sure, you spray everything. Any rubber mount, you want to spray it. Remember to move the jack stand out of the way. Have these snug, then slowly let it down, then crosswise, do them all. Now, if you do have lockers like me, you got the key. So, when you're done, so you don't lose it, open your trunk. Put it back in the trunk. The jack and tool equipment is. You wouldn't believe how many customers I have who over the years have brought me cars. They want me to work on them. I go, give them a ride to work, come back. Where are the puzzle locks? I call them up. What's a puzzle lock? I explain. You got these things, I can't take your wheels off unless you have the correct puzzle lock. So, always put it in a place where you're going to remember. And if you do take it to mechanic, when you pick it up, say, hand me the puzzle lock. Or even better, put it in your glove box in a plastic bag, like a sandwich bag. And then it's always there, and say it's in a glove box, so when you're done, please put it back. And when you pick it up, open the glove box. Make sure that the locker is there, because if you don't have the puzzle lock, you get a flat tire in the middle of nowhere, you're SOL. On a torque wrench, when you're done using it, unscrew this and turn it back so it's set to 0, because if you leave it up high, it won't calibrate right. You always have to go back to 0 when you're done using it. So let's take it for a spin and see how it goes. Well, actually, you know it's going to start up, and it's hot as Hades, so let's turn the AC on full blast. Stopping, it's not making the noise. Turning, all the creaking and clunking is gone. We pull into a driveway, and it used to make all kinds of creaking noises. That's all gone. We backed up, it would do it. That was just the brakes crabbing. You can see the noises have gone away. We didn't have to buy anything except a can of AT205 Reseal. What a deal. Just spray the AT205 Reseal. It's a polymer oil, and it lubricates and rejuvenates the rubber. Now, it only works on rubber. It doesn't work on anything else. Don't try it on anything else. And don't put it in your brake system. It's not made for brake systems. You can put it in most transmissions, engines, differentials, even power steering. You can put a little bit in most systems. But in this case, it rejuvenates the rubber. No more noise. And if you got a more serious problem, now you know what to check for. Ball joints, tie rods, maybe the stabilizer bolt for the stabilizer arm. Hey, lots of things can get worn. Now you know how to check them. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.